Good morning, Standard 10th. Welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed your vacations, stayed at home, and also did your studies. Students, before starting with today's class, let us just have a quick recapitulation of the topics that we studied just before your vacations. So, students, we studied the reasons as to why tertiary sector is becoming so important in India. So, students, we all know that tertiary sector includes services, and there are few important services such as education, healthcare facilities, banking, etc. that is needed in any country. And so tertiary sector becomes important. Next reason, students, with the development of primary and secondary sector, the demand for certain services such as storage or transportation also increase. And so this is also one of the reasons. Reason number 3, students, as income of citizens increase, demand for different types of services such as shopping, tourism, or eating out also increase. And the last reason is that there are few important services such as IT that have gained importance in past few decades. And these are also included in the tertiary sector. So all these reasons have led to the increasing importance of tertiary sector in India. Students, one important thing that you have to remember is not all of the service sector is growing equally well. On one end, it employs highly skilled and educated people, and at the other end, there are a very large number of workers engaged in services such as small shopkeepers, repair persons, who barely manage to earn a living. And then we discussed these two graphs, and from these we got to know that even though production is more in tertiary sector, employment is more in primary sector. And we also studied that similar shifts have not taken place in primary sector in case of employment because not enough jobs were created in the other two sectors, that is tertiary and secondary. And lastly, we talked about underemployment, that it is a situation in which people are working, but all of them are made to work less than their potential. Students, we understood this concept with the help of an example of Lakshmi, a small farmer. And students, please don't forget, underemployment is not only found in primary sector, it is found in service sector also. So till here we have already studied. Now let us begin with the topic that we have to study today. So students, today we have to study that what are the ways through which government can create more employment opportunities so that production can be increased and also the problem of underemployment can be avoided. So let us start. Let us consider the example of Lakshmi. So she had 2 hectares of unirrigated land. Unirrigated means the land that is not supplied with proper water facility for irrigation. So Lakshmi was only dependent on rain and was able to grow only one crop. Now, if the government will provide her with some loan to construct a well, then she would be able to irrigate her land properly and will also be able to grow a second crop during the Rabi season. And this will reduce underemployment. How underemployment? Students, since there was no sufficient water, and so she was not able to irrigate land properly. But after construction of well, she has ample amount of water, sufficient amount of water, so she can irrigate the entire land. Now suppose if 1 hectare of land can give employment to 2 people, so Lakshmi had 2 hectares. That means 2 more people can now work on Lakshmi's land. Okay, so we have discussed one way of creating more employment, And just like wells, dams can also be constructed to help farmers in irrigating their land. So this point is done. Moving ahead to the next point. So students, if farmers are able to grow their produce, they also need to sell it in the market. And for that, they need proper transportation facility. And also proper storage will help farmers and traders to store the crops and sell them when the price is good or higher. And this will not provide employment only to farmers, but those who are involved in transportation or trade will also benefit. So, the next suggestive measure through which employment can be generated is by making some investment in transportation facility or storage. Next, point number 3. So, students, apart from water, farmers also require other inputs such as seeds, pesticides, fertilizers, etc. And to arrange capital for these, they have to go to money lenders who charge high rate of interest, which often leads to debt trap. But if banks will give credit to these farmers, then it would be of great help as banks charge reasonable rate of interest. And then the farmers would be able to save more part of their income that can be used to feed their families as well as to start some other business. Point number 4. Expansion of secondary sector, that is various industries, can also employ a lot of people. Industries such as vegetable processing or dal mill can be located. And students, apart from these, honey collection centers can also be set up to provide employment. Next, point number 5. Students, in India, 60% of the total population belongs to the age group of 5 to 29 years. And out of this, only 52% are attending educational institutions. This means the rest are either at home, maybe because of lack of access to school, or maybe they are working as child laborers. And if these children will attend schools, then more educational institutions would be required, and that would generate employment. Students, a study was conducted by the Planning Commission, and in that it was estimated that nearly 20 lakh jobs can be created in the education sector alone. So students, I hope that you all know what is a planning commission. So it was set up under the government of India, and it was given the task to formulate the different 5-year plans for India's development. And just like this education sector, students, to improve healthcare facilities, we require more hospitals. And that would also give employment to many people, such as doctors, nurses, and other health workers. So we can say that the process of human capital formation can also help in generating employment. The next point is about tourism. Students, tourism is a very vast and growth-oriented industry. It covers many services like air travel, railways, hospitality, renting a car, etc. And so it offers employment to many people. The same study by the Planning Commission, about which we studied in the previous point, estimated that if tourism as a sector will be improved, then it can employ 35 lakh people every year. So students, tourism as a sector is very important in generating employment for the people. Students, there is also a mention about IT sector in your book. And as we all know that IT industries would also be helpful as it employs many people every year. And the last point that we have to study is about Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Students, You all have studied about this act in standard 9th. And please remember, if you get a question related to this topic in your exam, then you will write the full form along with the year, that is 2005. Now, this act, as you all know, was one of the steps taken by the government to provide employment to the people. Students, this act was introduced by the central government that gives 100 days of guaranteed wage employment to people in rural areas who volunteer to do unskilled manual work. And if the government fails to do so, then it will give unemployment allowance. That means some money is paid by the government to the people whom the government failed to give work under this act. And students, such works are given preference under this act that would help in increasing the production from land. In other words, we can say that it aims to create more durable assets, such as construction of wells or dams. Students, you may get a 3 marks question from this topic, and these are the points that you have to mention in your answer. And students, there's a question related to this act given in your book, that why is it referred to right to work? So students, you will write your answer in this sequence. First, you will write about right to work, and then you will mention the aim of this act. So because of its aim only, basically, this act is also referred as right to work, because it gives people an opportunity to work. It gives 100 days of assured employment. So that's all for today, students. Thank you.